Nate Erskine-Smith says he is all in when it comes to Ontario politics, but he remains on Parliament Hill for now. The Toronto MP says he's committed to staying until a provincial by-election is called in Scarborough Southwest. Here's Erskine-Smith, who says he's building a team to run again for the Ontario Liberal leadership.
I'm incredibly frustrated on the things that matter in our everyday lives, whether it's cost of living, cost of housing, whether it's healthcare, whether it's world-class education that we deserve and our kids deserve. On all of the basics, the Ford government is failing. And yeah, they can, folksy charm, put on the Team Canada hat. It ultimately is not good enough. I see incompetence, I see self-dealing, I see a tired government, and we deserve better. And honestly, if you think you deserve better, then you should participate and you should step up.
So that is Nate Erskine-Smith. He wants to run provincially in Scarborough Southwest. That eventual by-election, a result of NDP Deputy Leader Doly Begum planning a run with the federal Liberals in that same riding. For more on all this maneuvering, let's bring in Robert Benzie, Queen's Park Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Rob, good to see you.
Good to see you, Andrew.
So I do want to start with Doly Begum, the Deputy Ontario NDP leader, deciding to run for the federal Liberals to try and succeed Bill Blair. Your newspaper is calling this a political earthquake. Just how big a blow is this for provincial New Democrats?
It's a massive blow, Andrew. I mean, Doly Begum got 43% of the vote in that riding in the election a year ago at the end of this month, February 27th last year. And the provincial NDP polled at 18.5% across the province. So she does twice as well in her riding as the party does provincially. So this is going to be a difficult, challenging seat for them to hold on to. They are still the official opposition in the legislature, and there's no risk of that, of losing that. But this is a devastating blow to them. And the fact that it'll probably be a Liberal pickup because the Conservatives haven't won that seat since 1999. And if Nate Erskine-Smith is the Liberal candidate, if he wins the nomination, which I suspect he will, he is the automatic front runner to be the provincial Liberal leader, and that is going to set in motion a whole bunch of other things. So there are a lot of problems for the NDP with this departure, this defection. They did not see it coming. No one here at Queen's Park saw it coming, Andrew. If you'd given me a list of the top 5 New Democrats that I would have thought might have crossed the floor or left Queen's Park, Doly Begum wouldn't have been on there.
Right, and you mentioned Nate Erskine-Smith, and he does want that provincial Liberal nomination in Scarborough Southwest. Yep. What's at stake for him now that he says he's all in provincially?
It's a huge gamble for him. He's been the Beaches East York MP, it's the neighboring riding, for 11 years almost. And he's going to give that up at a date as soon as Premier Doug Ford calls a by-election. And that's a big gamble. He's then going to have to go into an open nomination, because I don't think the Liberal Party is going to appoint a candidate provincially the way that they did federally. And I think that's going to, it's a gamble on his part, but I think it's a calculated one. Yes, the Liberals finished 3rd in that riding provincially a year ago, but it's a different time. And without Doly Begum, the New Democrats really are jammed. And I don't know who the Tory candidate will be, but Premier Doug Ford told us this morning that he is planning to contest that vigorously. So it'll be a very, very interesting election, a by-election there. You're going to have an interesting by-election federally, and later on you'll have an interesting provincial by-election. But Doug Ford doesn't have to call one until August.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about the strategy behind this election timing and what the Premier is thinking. What is the Premier and Progressive Conservatives looking at as they watch all this unfold in Scarborough?
Well, it's an interesting. They are actually in the catbird seat in a weird way, because they aren't expected to win there. They can road test some messages against Nate Erskine-Smith and try some tactics to rough him up if he's the Liberal candidate. The other thing that they can do is use it as a way to destabilize the Liberal Party during their leadership contest. The Liberals are meeting this weekend. The provincial Liberals are meeting this weekend to determine the rules for that contest. There's no way that it'll be done in August. It'll be more likely to be in September or October. And if that's the case, let's say Nate Erskine-Smith is the candidate for the Liberals. He's also a front runner to be the OLP leader. And then he loses the by-election in August. What happens to that Liberal leadership contest? It's a really, really interesting dynamic. And so for Premier Ford, who is still very popular, if an election were called today, he would probably win even more seats than he won in the election a year ago, according to the public opinion polls. There are a lot of dynamics here at play that could be bad for all three parties. But I think if you're Mr. Ford, you have the least to lose. It's an NDP seat. If you finished second last time, if you finish second this time, no biggie. But you could really, really dust up your potential rival. And we're going to have a provincial election here in 2029 or 2030. And if Erskine Smith is the Liberal leader, at that point, the Tories would love a chance to really get inside his head early.
Right. So a lot to watch for provincially. I do want to ask you about the federal dynamics at play, because that is happening as well. That really started with Bill Blair's resignation to be named High Commissioner to the UK, leaving after more than 10 years as MP for Scarborough Southwest. Now you have Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Liberal Party attracting a very prominent New Democrat to run in Toronto. So what does that move mean for federal Liberal fortunes in Toronto and beyond? Because we do have by-elections coming in Toronto, not just in Scarborough Southwest, but we could be looking at a federal campaign sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have one in University of Rosedale for Chrystia Freeland's old seat. Danielle Martin, a prominent physician here in Toronto, is the Liberal candidate there. Doly Begum, again, a prominent New Democrat, is the Liberal candidate in Bill Blair's old riding in Scarborough Southwest. And then I don't know what happens to Nate Erskine Smith's riding in Beaches East York, what the Liberals do there. So we could have a third by-election in the city limits. And I don't necessarily think that we're going to have a federal election this year, because I still think that Carney is going to attract a couple of more conservatives across the floor to maybe give him that more majority. And I think I'm not really sure the federal Tories want an election anytime soon. They're behind the Liberals in the polls. Pierre Poilievre's leadership is secure with that 87.4% on the weekend in Calgary. That's a great endorsement for him. But it's I don't think they're ready to contest an election when Donald Trump is the president, and Poilievre is still struggling with messaging on how to tackle Trump. Doug Ford used Donald Trump as a cudgel in the 2025 Ontario election, and Mark Carney copied that strategy, and both men won those elections. Pierre Poilievre couldn't even bring himself to mention the name Donald Trump in his speech last Friday night in Calgary. So I think that's going to be a tougher road for him to hoe. So I think the Tories don't want a federal election. The Liberals probably do want one, just because they maybe get their majority. But if they can get a majority through floor crossers, then these by-elections will be the main game in town this year.
All right, well, we'll certainly watch in Scarborough Southwest and elsewhere in the city of Toronto in the coming months. Rob Benzie, thanks for your insight. Appreciate it as always.